What do you really need versus what do you really need? This week's sponsor is none other than Portrait Works. Now, Portrait Works is not just about creating the most amazing NPC and character portraits that you have ever seen with the tap of a few buttons, but it can also be used in so many different ways. Like, for example, loading it up onto your favorite VTT and using the portraits as tokens. Now, here's a little conflagration that may or may not take place. Thanks, Portrait Works. Another way that Portrait Works is awesome is, well, I like to make these kinds of little things. Little mugs, these are the different characters that are in the two different campaigns that I'm playing in. There may be a self-portrait there, I'm not saying anything. But I like to make a mug like this for myself or for my players as a thank you, and you can do that all with Portrait Works. Thanks to Portrait Works for sponsoring us this week. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. My name is Guy, and today we are talking about what do you need in order to actually run your game. It's a very simple answer. You need some players, you need a rule set, however that might be, a book or a PDF, a piece of paper. You need some kind of random number generator, unless you're playing Bounty Hunter, the TTRPG, which is available from our website. Yes, I know. I wrote it because it's diceless, all right? You just need the rule book and a character sheet, and off you go. So those are the fundamentals. That's what you need. Actually, it's not. It's far more complicated than that. But at the same time, that's liberating. That's encouraging, because it means that we can create a list of what we need, and then we can just simply get what we need. So let's get into that list. The most important element, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of what do you need, is you need NPCs. You need some henchmen, you need some villains, you need some nemesis if you're running an epic campaign. You need some regular NPCs, some basic good old-fashioned NPCs. If they've got their OGAS, you have everything that you need in order to run your campaign. Well, to a large degree. So you're going to need some NPCs. Whenever I go into a role-playing session, if it's the first session that I'm running, or even if it's the first adventure, or actually, you know what? It's just whenever I go in. I usually have a list of about 5 or 6 NPCs that I can use in my game. It's their name and some basic OGAS information, because that's all I need. I then will run the adventure, and sometimes I go, well, I wrote down 7 orcish NPCs that I really thought I was going to need, and the party decided not to go into the orc territories, even though they said that they were going to go in there last week. They've decided to head south into the dwarfish territories. But because I had those 7 orcs, I can then just replace the orc name with the dwarf name, and suddenly I'm golden. I can still continue moving forward. So I would say you need NPCs. I would also suggest that you need monsters. You need some kind of encounters. Remember we were speaking about pacing a couple of weeks ago? Last week, I think it was. You need to have monsters. Some stats, some encounters. Now, one of the reasons why I happen to be a big fan of D&D Beyond, and I'm not promoting it here, I'm just saying I use it now. I didn't up until D&D in a Castle, as a matter of fact. They required us to use it, and after that I was converted, is because that's the role-playing system I primarily use, but it has all of the monsters, and it has an encounter builder thing, so you can just click build. Doesn't mean your encounter is going to be interesting, doesn't mean your encounter is going to be fun. We will be looking at how to do that in subsequent videos, but it does mean that you have got the stats available for you and at your fingertips, so it's really quick to then start to just be able to do stuff on the fly. So you need to have your monsters. Maps. I maintain that you need to have maps. You really do need some kind of idea, even if you're making the map up on the fly. There is something in the back of your mind that you have prepped yourself for, which is map making. So if you understand the fundamentals of map making, you don't have to have a map to start with. But at some point in the game, you will need a map. A world map, I think, is always a perfect starting place because it gives you general big idea kind of stuff. And then you can whittle it down and go into minutiae and stuff. But you are going to need a map. We are going to be doing a video in the next couple of weeks on map making. So watch out for that if you are not very strong on maps, but you will need a map at some point. Everything else that I'm about to talk about, you don't need, but they can enhance your game considerably. Minis. Now, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of ways to get minis into your game. You can use Lego minifigs. You can use blocks of cheese. I have had that once. It was in Minneapolis. So you can use M&Ms. You can use actual minis. With the advent and the rise of all of the different tech that allows us to make our own minis, there is, as far as I'm concerned, something very tangible about having your own mini. And something that I do in all of my games is that my players, I ask them for descriptions of their characters, and then I will make portraits for their characters if we're going to be playing a VTT. So their little token is the character that they created. It helps to build that bridge. Now, if you're sitting around the table and you are lucky enough to have a 3D printer, well, then you can go even further. And here is my character, Elkan, that I will be playing. I don't think it's going to focus on Elkan. There we go. There's Elkan. I painted up Elkan the other day. As you can see, I'm not a very good painter, but that is my character. So now when I see that character on a map, whether the map is hand-drawn or beautifully drawn or whatever, that builds a connection for me as a player. So minis, I think, are very useful. They can be very expensive, and as we say on the channel, financial security before gaming. Props, handouts, old bits of paper, a little thing here, a little thing there. In one of the games that I play in, our DM handed out to us a flyer for a haberdashery, an innocuous little thing. But I went, oh, there's a clue, and I can physically feel it. I can engage with it. This is brilliant. This is wonderful. This is something that we don't have really in VTT space, is that we don't have the physicality of an actual clue, seeing a goblet of, red liquid that is drinkable, oozing down the side to look as if it is a blood chalice. We don't have those kinds of things. These can be very, very, very tactile, very visual clues that will help bring your players into your game. Don't need them. They do add some nice finesse. Music. Music is tricky. If you're doing a live stream, please do not use music in your live stream unless you've got the copyright to do so. Otherwise, they will mute your audio and everything will be ruined. Life lessons learned. In your own home game, though, music is really useful. I use Amazon Music simply because I was using Spotify and then I moved over to Amazon and blah, 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 and whatever you use. I also have my own personal collection of soundtracks on compact disc. Yes, these were the things we used to use in the old days. And before then, I used to use a cassette of soundtracks that I recorded off of television. Oh my God, that brings back memories. Anyway, we can talk about that another time. Music is I think, very, very useful if you know how to use it. And I've done several videos on using music on this channel. You can go and look for those. But music can be really, really useful. Do you need it? No, you don't. Can you run games without it? Yes, you can. Does it enhance your games? Yes, it does. Trackers, markers, little ident rings if you're using minis. Some people like to clip on the effect of you are dying or you're wounded or you're unconscious or you're mind controlled onto the bottom of them. Personally, I haven't used them enough to find them very useful. I generally rely on people remembering the conditions that they have applied to their characters and things like that. But trackers whose initiative is up first, we've all seen those how to use clothes pegs to make an initiative tracker tree, which you can absolutely use if you are so inclined. Those are really cool, actually. As a player, I've experienced them being used. They are a lot of fun. I'm now going to go and make myself a peg tracker or use one of our sponsors' products, which I've spoken about on the channel as well. I'm not going to mention names. Dragon Shield, Dragon Shield, Dragon Shield. Okay, moving on. Tech. I know tech sounds like a pretty broad category, but I've had games where the DMs have had interactive touchscreens built into their tables, beautiful gaming tables, beautiful screens, and you're going, wow, this is mind-blowing. I also don't have the budget that they have to do that. But sometimes it's just a screen, a computer screen that's running PowerPoint of the NPCs that the players have met. And one of my best gaming experiences was with a GM who had those screens running. It's just a simple little PowerPoint running in the background. Most of us have got PCs in the home anyway. Even little things like that can make a huge difference. But again, they're not necessary. So that's my list of things that you need in order to be able to run your game successfully. Have I left anything out? Comment down below, please. Let's learn from each other and grow together. Until next week, a massive thank you to everybody who keeps this channel going. Really a big thank you to all of you. Until next time, happy gaming.